Discover the incredible secrets of how 10,000 medieval soldiers found warmth in freezing tents. Mrs. Thompson stood resolute at the front of her classroom, the weight of the world pressing hard on her shoulders. Outside, children's laughter rang like bells in the biting air, a stark contrast to the shuttered shops lining Main Street. The news of yet another business closing hovered heavily in the classroom, reminding everyone that hope was fading in their small town. But today, Mrs. Thompson wouldn't let the shadows creep in. She clutched a weathered history book, its pages yellowed and full of tales long buried, ready to spark the flame of inspiration. "Listen up, class. Today, we uncover an incredible story," she proclaimed, her eyes bright with anticipation. 10,000 medieval soldiers facing the harshest winter. Cold, hungry, alone. But they didn't give up. They banded together to survive. A murmur of intrigue spread among her students, their eyes wide with curiosity. Pictures of those soldiers, huddled beneath fraying tents, filled their minds. Men from all walks of life, united against an unforgiving world. As she shared the soldiers' struggles and triumphs, the room began to buzz with excitement. Her heart swelled. This was what she lived for, igniting that spark of unity. Mrs. Thompson swept her arms wide. The warmth they found wasn't just in their tents, but in each other. They helped one another survive. What if we could do the same here? Selena, her brightest student, piped up. "We should do something to help Mr. Harris. He's been struggling with his farm, and I heard he's behind on bills." Mrs. Thompson's heart skipped a beat. Mr. Harris, a local farmer and war veteran, was an embodiment of courage and perseverance. "Let's harness that spirit," she urged, adrenaline coursing through her. Inspiration ignited. Her students rallied together, grouped in clusters like soldiers preparing for battle. Their project turned the classroom into a vibrant hub of creativity, each drawing and poster symbolizing their resolve to support Mr. Harris. But as pressures mounted, so did the turmoil at home. Her brother Tom, a veteran of the Vietnam War, sat quietly in an armchair, his past coiling around him like a fog. They hadn't spoken in years. Haunted by the ghosts of war, he often distracted her with his silence, his restless nights echoing the struggles of the town outside. Just then, as though by some twisted fate, the community's fight escalated. A corporate giant threatened to gobble up their beloved Main Street, a churning leviathan devoid of the warmth they'd poured into this place over generations. The stakes rose painfully high as her students learned not just about history, but about their own loyalty to home, bringing with it an urgency that pulled at their young hearts. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying this, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The day of the fundraiser dawned with low clouds, as if the sky itself anticipated the battle ahead. Trepidation mingled with excitement in the air, leaving an electric buzz that thrummed through the crowd. As they gathered, Mrs. Thompson realized this wasn't just about supporting Mr. Harris. It was about healing her family, her town, and herself. The past clawed at her heels, but in that moment, firmness surged through her spirit. Could she mend bonds that felt threadbare? The tension unfolded, dragging her brother Tom and Mr. Harris into a confrontation that resonated with the challenges of yesterday and tomorrow, echoing with unsaid words and buried feelings, leading Mrs. Thompson to question everything she once thought she knew about sacrifice and heroism. Would the warmth she'd ignited in her classroom be enough to blanket their wounds, or would the frigid fingers of their separate pasts pull them apart forever? The future loomed vast and uncertain, and the story spun like a whirlwind, ready to reveal whether unity could truly conquer despair. As the morning wore on, the clouds began to thicken, mirroring the uncertainty that hung heavily in the air. The day of the fundraiser was finally upon them, and the excitement pulsated through the community like electricity. Tables lined the streets outside the school, bursting with homemade goodies, pies that glistened, cookies piled high, and steaming cups of cocoa to warm the hands and hearts of all who gathered. Mrs. Thompson stood in front of the table she and her students had assembled, her heart fluttering with a mix of hope and anxiety. She watched as her students dashed around, shouting excitedly. They were busy hanging colorful posters and handing out flyers, their youthful energy infectious and utterly contagious. "Look, Mrs. Thompson!" shouted Selena as she held up a grand sign that read, "Together we can." The enthusiasm radiating from her filled the air with undeniable warmth, much like the tents her history lesson had showcased. Yet amid the chaos, her gaze wandered to her brother. Tom stood a few feet away, a shadow among the vibrant colors. He had come but had said little, his expression clouded, as if he were caught in a storm of his own making. Her heart ached to reach out, but old wounds had left them standing worlds apart. As the fundraiser kicked off, the crowds began to swell, each face a familiar thread stitched into the fabric of their town. They greeted one another with smiles, laughter, and shared stories of resilience. Mrs. Thompson could feel the vibrations of hope mixing with the cold air. They were not just here for Mr. Harris.
They were here for each other. "Mrs. Thompson," a voice called. It was Mr. Harris, looking weary but grateful. "Thank you for this. You don't know how much it means to me." His gaze flicked to the busy throng, his pride evident but tainted by the weight of his worries. "That's what community is for," she answered, her heart swelling. "We're here for you, just like your soldiers were there for each other." The day unfolded beautifully, filled with laughter and generosity. But as the sun began to dip and shadows stretched long across the pavement, Mrs. Thompson noticed something hidden beneath the joyful surface. Whispers circulated about the looming threat of the corporate giant, the conversation shrouded in worry. Then, as if summoned by fate, a man in a dark suit appeared at the edge of the gathering, watching with piercing eyes. He stood apart, a figure wrapped in authority, with a briefcase that felt portentous. The laughter faded slightly as his presence cast a pall that disrupted the warmth they'd worked so hard to create. Tom's expression shifted, the shadows of his past creeping back into his eyes. Seeing the man, a flicker of recognition danced across his features. The sudden tension snagged the air, leaving the joyful chatter muffled and distant. "Tom?" Mrs. Thompson asked, concern knitting her brow. He shook his head sharply, as if shaking off a dream that threatened to engulf him. "I'll be right back," he muttered, his voice a low tremor. He stepped away, moving toward the man in the suit, a mixture of dread and determination pulling at his spine. Mrs. Thompson's heart raced. The day they had built up now stood on the brink of something unimaginable. Would Tom's confrontation steer them toward salvation, or would it unleash chaos that threatened to tear apart everything they had strived so hard to mend? The community buzzes with energy, but a storm of hope and fear brewing between the siblings lingered in the air. What would happen next? Would this day become a pivotal chapter for the town's survival, or a painful reminder of battles lost? The uncertainty hung heavy for Mrs. Thompson, as she realized the true struggle was just beginning. Tom walked toward the man, each step heavy and deliberate. He could feel the crowd behind him, a buzzing tapestry of conversations and laughter. But the laughter became distant, fading into a low hum. His heartbeat echoed in his ears, a constant reminder that he was on the brink of a confrontation he had both anticipated and dreaded. "Mr. Hall," Tom said, forcing the name past the lump in his throat. The man was tall, his dark suit perfectly tailored. He exuded authority like a shield, a barrier that kept the world from getting too close. "What are you doing here?" Mr. Hall's eyes glinted with a predatory sharpness. "Just passing through, Tom. Enjoying the community spirit, I see." His voice felt slick and insincere, sliding right off Tom's skin. "I know why you're really here."
Tom clenched his fists, trying to bolster his resolve. You think you can buy this place? You think you can take it away from people who actually care? And who said I want to buy it? Mr. Hall sneered, a grin creeping onto his face. I'm here to offer you a better way out, Tom. This community can grind you down. You know that. Around them, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter faltered. Mrs. Thompson caught snippets of the conversation, her heart sinking as she caught sight of Tom's rigid posture. The briefest flash of fear crossed her mind. What was he about to do? Better way? Tom shot back, anger coursing through him. You mean abandoning everyone who needs you? You don't care about these people. You only see dollar signs. The man's expression hardened. You're a smart kid, Tom, but don't let your emotions cloud your judgment. I can make it easier for you, for everyone here. A quick decision and it all changes overnight. Tom felt the heat rise in his cheeks, but he couldn't show weakness. This fundraiser is for Mr. Harris and the community. Isn't that worth fighting for? Mr. Hall chuckled, an icy sound that chilled the air. Fighting? That's cute. You don't understand the game that's being played. You might want to consider how this will all end. You're just one player on a crowded board, and I always win. Just then, a small voice broke through the strange tension hanging between them. Tom! Mrs. Thompson! It was Selina, her face alight with urgency. She dashed over, grabbing Tom's hand. Everyone's worried! We can't let him scare you away! Tom looked down at her, the warmth of her grasp cutting through the icy exchange. He felt the hope ripple through the community, seeping in to battle against the fear lodged in his chest. He took a deep breath, pumping his strength. You're right, he said, the resolve returning to his voice. We won't let fear dictate our future. This community is more than just a profit to be made. A murmur rippled through the crowd, gathering strength. Mrs. Thompson moved closer, sensing the shift. Together, we can stand against anyone or anything that threatens our town. This isn't just about fundraising anymore. It's about our home. Mr. Hall's expression darkened, but he maintained his facade. A touching sentiment, but you may want to watch who you're allying yourself with, Tom. Remember, I'm not the only one who has eyes on this place. As the mystery deepened and Tom and Mrs. Thompson stood tall, the crowd grew closer. The warmth of camaraderie ignited the chilly air. But what would Mr. Hall unleash next? With a powerful figure watching from the shadows, they knew the stakes were rising higher than ever before. What strategy would they devise, and how far were they willing to go for one another? With the tension thickening like a storm cloud about to burst, the next move hung precariously in the balance. What would they face when dawn broke anew? Tom stood tall, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The crowd behind him was alive with whispers, a force of nature fueled by hope, yet he could sense the storm brewing within Mr. Hall. The air thickened, charged with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Are you really willing to fight for these people, Tom? Mr. Hall's voice dropped lower, each word dripping with condescension. What's your plan? A bake sale? He laughed, but there was no humor in it, just a cold, calculated mockery. We'll figure something out, Tom replied, surprising even himself with his conviction. This town is family. You don't understand what it means to us. Mrs. Thompson placed a hand on Tom's shoulder, her touch grounding. We're in this together. We've built something here, and we won't let it die just because someone sees a dollar sign, she said, her voice steady and reassuring. Mr. Hall's eyes narrowed, irritation flashing across his face. You think passion alone can stop progress? How naive. I could easily turn this place into something profitable in no time. Selina squeezed Tom's hand. We need to show him that he's wrong. We can't let him walk all over us. After a moment of silence, Tom straightened. Ideas began to form, flickering like sparks in the back of his mind. You say it's all about profit? Then let's put that to the test. Show us what you've got, Mr. Hall. Let the people decide. A hush descended over the crowd. Tom's heart raced. Was this the right move? The uncertain faces around him offered no guarantees, but a spark of determination flickered within. Mr. Hall's lips curled into a sly smile. Interesting strategy. But what do you propose? A public debate? A vote? You think these people will side with you? Let them speak for themselves, Tom said, his voice rising. Let's have an event where the community can voice their opinions. If they believe in you, so be it. But if they stand with us, he took a deep breath, then you'll see just how much they value their home. A murmur swept through the crowd, excitement mingling with apprehension. Mrs. Thompson nodded, her eyes shining. That's right, let's gather everyone, share our stories, remind everyone of what truly matters. Mr. Hall's demeanor shifted, doubt flickering across his face. Very well, Tom, but you're playing a dangerous game. I will hold you to this. I'll handle the pressure. The community is our strength, Tom asserted, certainty washing over him. Then it's settled, Mr. Hall said, straightening his tie. I'll be back. Let's see if your precious little town can withstand scrutiny. With that, he turned on his heel, striding away, but not without casting one last glance over his shoulder. As he walked, a wave of relief swept over Tom. He had taken a stand, but he could feel the uncertainty gnawing at him. They had a plan, one that relied on unity, but still, the stakes felt higher than ever. Selina looked up at him, her eyes glimmering with admiration. That was brave. Maybe stupid, but we can't back down now. Tom ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight return as he looked at the crowd. We need to gather everyone, and fast. This was just the first round. Mrs. Thompson glanced around, a sense of determination igniting within her as she waved the crowd closer. Let's plan a meeting. We need every voice to be heard. It's time to show Mr. Hall what we stand for. As the townsfolk gathered, Tom felt hope swell within, a fragile but stubborn ember ready to flicker into a flame. What stories would emerge from the meeting? As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Tom wondered if this moment would change their town forever or shatter it into pieces. With hearts racing and uncertainty looming, they prepared for a battle that would shape their future. What would their stories reveal, and who would rise to defend their home? The following day dawned with a sense of urgency that crackled in the air. Tom woke before sunrise, his mind racing with thoughts of their upcoming meeting. He slid out of bed, trying not to disturb Selina, who lay asleep beside him. She'd been his bedrock throughout this crisis, her unwavering support a light in the dark times. In the quiet of the house, he felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him again. He made his way to the kitchen. The comforting smell of coffee brewing was a balm for his nerves. The world outside was still muffled by a blanket of dawn, nature in quiet anticipation. Tom grabbed a mug and leaned against the counter, staring out the window as the sky shifted from dark blue to streaks of soft pink and gold. A visual reminder, he thought. They were going to need it today. After a quick shower, he dressed and headed to the community center where the meeting was set to take place. As Tom walked, he gathered strength from the familiar sights. The old oak tree where he'd played as a child, the bakery that fostered his love for sweet pastries, and the park where friends gathered to share laughter and dreams. Each corner reminded him why he had to fight. The community center was starting to fill up when Tom arrived. The excuse for staging a meeting had become a rallying call for the town. Faces that were once stooped in worry now bore expressions that danced between trepidation and fierce determination. Mrs. Thompson was already setting up chairs, her eagerness infectious, sparking conversations among those who arrived. Tom took a deep breath and stepped onto the small stage. He cleared his throat, and the murmurs subsided. "Thank you all," he began, his voice steady despite the knots in his stomach. "Today's not just about a debate or a vote. It's about us,
about our stories and what this town means to each one of us. A ripple of nods and soft murmurs of agreement flowed through the crowd. He was heartened by their support. Mr. Hall thinks this is just about profit, he continued, but that's not what make our town thrive. It's who we are. It's the memories woven into every corner. It's the friendships that have carried us through hard times. It's our shared laughter and our community spirit. Tom felt a charge in the air. He knew he had to share the weight of leadership with others. I want to hear your stories. What does this town mean to you? How can we show Mr. Hall what we stand for? One by one, hands began to raise. The air quickly filled with stories. The single mother who found support when she lost her job. The elderly couple recalling decades of community events. The children shining brightly as they described summer nights spent playing flag football at the park. Each voice added to the fire growing inside Tom. They were more than just anecdotes. They were a testament to what his town was built upon. They were raw, powerful, and deeply emotional. But then an unexpected voice cut through the harmony. A familiar pitch that shot an arrow of fear through Tom's heart. Mr. Hall had arrived early, leaning casually against the doorframe, his expression smug. "Impressive," he said, stepping forward, "but stories alone won't seal the deal." The confidence in his tone felt like a challenge, a dark cloud sweeping through their moment of unity. Tom's heart raced as he locked eyes with Hall. How could they fight against someone so intent on tearing apart their home? "I guess we'll see about that," he replied, strength flooding through him as he faced the crowd again. This isn't just about words. This is about a community coming together. But doubt crept in again, and the question remained unspoken. Would their stories be powerful enough to sway the outcome? As Tom took a deep breath, he knew the battle had truly begun. With Mr. Hall watching, the stakes had just risen. How would they stand against not only the threat of change, but the sneer of someone who saw their lives as mere obstacles? The fight for their home was just starting, and Tom felt the tension coil tighter around them all. What would happen next when the real confrontation came? Tom stood in the center of the room, feeling the collective energy of the crowd. He watched Mr. Hall's smug demeanor, and a surge of anger ignited in his chest. How could someone so disconnected from their lives act as though they were mere pawns in his game? He faced the crowd, their eyes wide, awaiting his next words. "The thing is," he said, his voice firm, "Mr. Hall can throw money at this project, but he can't buy what
we have here. We're a family. We have history, love, and memories that warm our hearts." Several folks nodded again, their eyes reflecting renewed energy. Tom gestured outward. "Let's show him that these walls hold more than just bricks. They hold laughter, tears, and dreams. We're not here to sell our voices. We're here to rally for them." The people cheered softly, a wave of support rolling through the room. More hands shot up, eager to share their voices. One by one, the townsfolk recounted stories that weaved a fabric of memories. The annual harvest festival that brought strangers together, the small store that had been family-owned for generations, and the little girl who learned to ride a bike on the same driveway as her father. Each story rekindled a flicker of hope within the hearts of the listeners. Tom felt it too, the pulsating rhythm of community drumbeating in every word. This was their fortress, their sanctuary, and they would defend it with every ounce of strength. But then Mr. Hall interrupted, his voice sharp and clear. "Is nostalgia really enough to sustain you in the face of progress?" He swaggered to the front, his hands casually tucked in his pockets. "You need new developments. You need jobs. You can't live in the past." The atmosphere shifted. Tom felt the fear creeping back, doubt threatening to extinguish the flame they had just ignited together. But Mrs. Thompson, always the brave one, countered. "And will those jobs be worth losing our community? What happens when there are no familiar faces around? Is that progress?" Her voice trembled, but her conviction was palpable. Tom grabbed onto that spark. "Exactly. We can have jobs, but they can be aligned with preserving what we hold dear. We can work together to ensure development respects our roots. A plunge of silence fell. Eyes darted between Tom and Mr. Hall. It hung in the air like a drawn bow, waiting to release. Tom didn't waver. Let's come up with a proposal that includes both. We can show Mr. Hall that progress doesn't have to mean destruction. As that last word lingered, the crowd erupted in chatter, brainstorming how they could inclusively present their community's needs. The unity surged like a tide, wrapping around Tom as he guided their ideas. With every suggestion, the small glimmers of hope transformed into a burning resolve. But as excitement fizzled into focused determination, Tom noticed Mr. Hall's posture shift subtly, an unsettling stillness crossing his features. Had he underestimated their drive? What other cards did Hall have up his sleeve? Tom's heart raced. They had reignited a sense of purpose, but the fight was far from over. As he looked into the crowd's hopeful eyes, he couldn't shake the feeling that Hall wouldn't take their unity lightly. With the rallying cries echoing in the air and plans forming, Tom felt a new wave of urgency. Unbeknownst to the townsfolk, Hall had a counterattack in mind, one that could shatter their unity.
Dreams before they even had a chance to take flight. What would be Hall's next move, and would they be ready when it came? Tom's pulse quickened. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the edge of a cliff, peering into the abyss below. What Mr. Hall was capable of was still a mystery, but one thing was clear. The man was relentless. "All right, everyone," Tom called out, trying to keep the momentum alive. "Let's keep building on this energy. We need to outline our ideas clearly and show Hall that he can't just steamroll us." His voice was steady, but inside, he felt the chaos of uncertainty. Around him, faces brightened with determination. Folks leaned in, eager to share more. But there was an edge of anxiety in the air, a question lingering like smoke. Would it really be enough? A community proposal, yes, Ellie, the local teacher, piped up. We can draft a document showing how we want to protect our past while embracing the future. We could pitch it to him. The room buzzed at her words as hope began to intertwine with practicality. But then Mr. Hall broke through the collective excitement once more, his deep voice slicing through the air. "You think a bunch of sentimental memories will scare me? You're fighting a losing battle. I have the resources to make real change, whether you like it or not." His smirk deepened, confidence radiating from him, while the room felt the weight of dread returning. Tom stepped forward as challenges hung between them. "But we have heart, Mr. Hall. You may have resources, but you can't buy loyalty or community spirit." He glanced around as the townsfolk murmured words of agreement. "We can reach a compromise that respects our lives and traditions." This sentiment lingered in the air, lifting spirits, but the shadow of Hall's looming threat still darkened the room. Tom felt almost dizzy with the intensity of it all, the pull towards something bigger than himself, clashing with the fear of losing everything they'd built together. "Let's keep these stories coming," he urged, trying to spark creativity in the crowd again. "What else makes our town unique? How does that play into our proposal?" People began to raise their hands again, eager to share. Hermione, the baker, raised her voice. "The old library. We've organized book readings there for years. It's where so many kids learn to love reading." The crowd responded with nods. "And the park," someone else added, "home to countless family picnics and memories." "Yes, each story matters," Tom replied, excitement bubbling. They were crafting a narrative, a defense rooted in their collective identity. However, as the crowd grew animated, Tom caught sight of Mr. Hall's disapproving glare. The man's mouth tightened, as if he was devising a plan. What would he do next? Tom's gut churned. This wasn't over. Just then, the peal of the town hall bell echoed through the room, reminding everyone of the time slipping by.
"Away. We have to finalize our ideas," Tom insisted. "We'll meet here again tomorrow to put it all down on paper. Every voice counts." As people dispersed, he felt a mix of hope and hesitation. Tomorrow would be crucial. The stakes were higher than ever, and Hall wouldn't rest until he got what he wanted. Tom stepped outside into the cool evening, taking a deep breath, trying to calm the swirling thoughts in his head. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery oranges and pinks. If they didn't act fast, would it all fade away with the light? He glanced back at the town hall, determination straining against the doubts that rattled him. All around him, the whispers of tomorrow lingered. What if their proposal didn't reach Hall's cold heart? What if he hit them where it hurt the most? As the question spiraled, a sense of urgency hit him. They had to be ready, not just with words, but with the passion that couldn't be squashed by greed. But would their unity stand strong when the real test emerged? The next day arrived with a chill that hung in the air like a thick fog. Tom felt the weight of anticipation press down on him as he made his way back to the town hall. He could almost hear the murmurs of anxiety growing louder with each step. Everyone had been talking a big game, but would that passion hold firm when faced with Hall's obstinance? As he pushed open the wooden door, the familiar creak echoed in the almost empty room. A few early birds were already there, chairs arranged in a haphazard circle, fingers fidgeting as they waited for the others. Tom's heart raced as he took in the determined faces. This was their time. Each one felt the tremors of shared purpose beneath their skin, and it surged through him like electricity. "Good morning, everyone," he greeted, trying to inject some optimism into the air. "Let's get down to business." With each sentence he spoke, the excitement began to weave its way through the crowd. The plan was taking shape. Ellie was quick to stand up, a stack of papers in hand. "I took the liberty to compile our ideas from yesterday," she said, her voice slightly trembling but filled with hope. "Each story we shared is part of what makes us who we are. I believe it can send a message to Hall." Tom nodded, urging her to continue. Each mention of their cherished memories wrapped around him like a warm blanket, pushing aside the cold reality that Hall represented. Hermione chimed in next, her eyes alight with determination. "We can start with the library. It's more than bricks and books, it's a cornerstone of our community." Several heads bobbed in agreement, and soon voices rose to share more stories. The park, the annual harvest festival, the candlelit carols each December. They poured their hearts into their memories, painting vivid pictures of their lives woven together. Each tale fueled the growing fire of their collective spirit. But just as optimism peaked, Tom's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out and saw a text from Ellie, asking if he had heard from Mr. Hall that morning. He shook his head in response, his stomach sinking at the thought of Hall deciding their fate. "What if we're not good enough?" muttered one of the older townsfolk, her brow furrowing with worry. "What if Hall just brushes us aside?" The ripple of fear shot through the group, tension rising like a dark tide. "Listen," Tom said, forcefully but gently. "Fear is part of this fight, but what we've learned about ourselves, that's worth fighting for. We are our stories. We are our history. Together, we can be stronger than Hall's greed." A cheer erupted, igniting hope once more. But within Tom's heart, doubt still lingered. Would that strength be enough? As they began crafting the proposal together, voices melding into one determined chorus, another message ticked through on his phone. It was a photo of Mr. Hall standing outside a new development site, a massive construction sign looming behind him. The caption read, "Big plans for our town. Stay tuned." Panic clawed at Tom's chest. This was more than just a warning. It was a declaration. Hall wasn't just playing for the game anymore. He was fully invested in winning. "Everyone," Tom exclaimed, trying to keep his voice steady. "We need to be ready. Hall's not holding back, and neither should we. Let's finalize this proposal, but let's also prepare for what he could throw at us." The energy in the room shifted as realization dawned on each face. "Tomorrow's just the beginning," Tom noted, determination radiating from him. "Whatever happens, we need to stand united. We have to be ready for Hall's next move." As they continued to draft their proposal, fingers danced across paper, the weight of urgency thickening the air. They were moving toward a confrontation, and soon it would become clear if their efforts could stand against the storm ahead.
But as Tom glanced at the text one more time, dread settled deep in his gut. What would happen when Hall made his next move? Would their town be swept away with his ambitions, or would they rise strong, forged in the flames of their fight? Tom's mind raced as he felt the frantic pulse in the room. With every passing moment, the weight of the impending meeting with Hall grew heavier. The faces surrounding him flickered with doubt, yet there was an undeniable spark of determination. They were no longer just a group of worried citizens. They had become a collective force. As the meeting continued, Ellie stood before the group again, her posture more confident. "I think we should organize a community event," she suggested. "Something that showcases all the things we love about our town. It can draw attention, and maybe, just maybe, it will make Hall reconsider."
Tom's heart leapt with a mix of excitement and trepidation. That's a brilliant idea. A festival highlighting our history and culture could unite everyone, he agreed. But as he spoke, something inside him worried about the logistics. Could they pull it off in such a short time? The crowd buzzed with new energy, voices overlapping in eager chatter. Tom listened, knowing they needed a solid plan. "Let's brainstorm for a moment," he said. "What should we call this festival? It needs to be something that captures the heart of our community." "The Harvest Harmony Festival!" Hermione shouted, her eyes sparkling like the sun breaking through clouds. Everyone echoed her excitement, and Tom felt his own spirit lift. Yes, that name held promise. It embodied all the memories they had shared in this place, the laughter, the joy, the unity. But as their discussions evolved, a heavy feeling kept creeping into the corners of Tom's mind. What if Hall dismissed their festival? What if the event wasn't enough? Each fear twisted like a vine around his resolve. "Let's be clear," he said, drawing the group's attention. "We can create the most beautiful festival, but if we want to sway Hall, we need something bigger. We need to make sure every single person in this town is involved. We must fight for our homes together." "Together," the crowd echoed, a passionate roar that sent shivers down Tom's spine. The air rang with excitement and determination. As they began to carve out the details, laughter and deep conversations melded into a symphony of hope. For a while, Tom allowed himself to believe that they could face Hall, that this festival could make a difference. Hours slipped away as they ironed out plans. They would need to secure permits, gather volunteers, coordinate with vendors, and spread the word. Each task seemed daunting, yet the group pressed on, buoyed by an unspoken unity. Then came an unexpected silence. Tom glanced around to find a familiar figure at the entrance. It was Mrs. Henderson, the oldest resident of the town, her wise face etched with concern. "Tom," she said softly, her voice trembling slightly, "I heard you're planning a festival, but we're also dealing with Hall's development. What if he brings in people from outside? What if they don't care about what we've built?" Her words struck a chord, plunging the room back into uncertainty. Tom's heart sank. He had been focused on the hope of their vision, but her question was a sharp reminder of their reality. They could put their heart and soul into this festival, but would it be enough against Hall's ambitions? Would the fight feel futile? Suddenly, Tom's phone buzzed again. It was a new message, but this time his hands trembled as he reached for it. The notification showed an invitation to a press conference with Mr. Hall, announcing his plans for the development and urging community support for progress. His jaw tightened as he looked at the group, a wave of resolve building within him. "We need to face this head on," he declared, the fire returning to his voice. "We show Hall that our community is not just a project to profit from. We are people. We have stories that matter, every single one of us." Tom met each gaze in the room, determination lighting up those anxious faces again. They had to take their fight to the next level, and soon. But then the question lingered, unspoken in the air. Would Hall be able to see the truth they presented, or would he just bulldoze over their stories? The gears of their plans turned, but now they were racing against time.
because tomorrow Hall would be making a statement that could change everything. Could they muster enough courage to turn the tide? Would their hearts and unity be enough to counter Hall's scheming ambition? The battle lines were drawn. Tom stood at the heart of the community gathering, feeling the palpable tension in the room. Their collective resolve had turned into a whirlwind of determination. It was all on the line now. He glanced around, taking in the faces of his neighbors, his family, each one holding a slice of the town they cherished. This was it, now or never. As the hour of the press conference neared, the buzz of anticipation turned into a steady drum of anxiety. He could sense Mrs. Henderson's words echoing in his mind. What if they didn't matter against the tide of Hall's ambitions? Yet a gentle hand on his shoulder broke through the fog of doubt. It was Mrs. Thompson, her presence grounding him. "Tom," she whispered, her eyes filled with faith, "every voice here is powerful. Remember, it's not just about the festival. It's about hearts and stories we weave together. Hall may have resources, but we have something far more valuable." It was just the assurance he needed. He found his feet, planting himself firmly in the ground. "You're right, Mrs. Thompson. Together, we have an army of stories to counter his cold, hard dollar signs." A wave of agreement surged, igniting the crowd. "Let's show Hall just how much this community means to us," a voice from the back shouted, igniting a chorus of cheers. Fueled by this new vigor, Tom encouraged everyone to finalize their roles for the Harvest Harmony Festival, efficient yet passionate. Harriet would handle the decorations, ensuring every corner reflected their love for the town. Ellie gathered volunteers for activities, while Hermione contacted local farmers to provide produce for a potluck. With every new arrangement, he could feel them drawing closer together, an unstoppable force getting ready to fight for their community. As they put the final touches on preparations, Tom's phone vibrated again. Another notification from Hall announcing a press conference at the town hall that afternoon. The time had arrived, and it pressed like an iron heat against him. "All right, everyone, this is it," Tom exclaimed, unbridled energy coursing through his veins. "Let's head to the town hall. We're not just fighting for our voices to be heard, we're here to rally for the heart of our town." The group followed, an unbroken mass of hope and determination weaving through the streets. And as they arrived, the tension jostled in the air like unspent energy. Hall stood at the podium, his confident posture radiating authority, while reporters gathered, buzzing like angry bees. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited to share my plans for the revitalization project," Hall began, a smirk tilting at the corners of his mouth. Tom felt his pulse quicken. They would not stand idle. Today, they would rise for what mattered. "Excuse me," Tom shouted, stepping forward into the spotlight, his voice cutting through the noise with urgency. "We're not here for corporate jargon or vague promises. We're here for our homes." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and suddenly others began to filter in beside him, members of the community, empowered by his words. Mrs. Thompson joined, and soon Ellie, followed by Mrs. Henderson, and even Selena, lifting signs that read, "Our town, our story." The energy surged as cheers erupted, drowning Hall's meticulous plans in uproarious support for their collective resolve. The reporters gasped, camera swirling as the tide shifted, documenting the moment Hall had never expected. "See?" Tom called, feeling the resolute energy in the faces around him. "This is what community looks like. This is resilience. We're not just stories to be exploited, we're the heartbeat of this town. We want progress, but not at the cost of what we cherish." A rumble of agreement echoed back. The crowd simmered, unwavering in their dedication. And at that moment, Tom realized it. Their unity held an insurmountable strength, far beyond Hall's icy ambition purveyed under a suit and tie.
You may have plans, Mr. Hall, Mrs. Thompson added, passion radiating from her eyes. But your plans lack our spirit, our commitment, and our love for this town. They hold no meaning compared to what we've built together. Mr. Hall's eyes darkened, unease flickering through his composure. You think you can halt the tide of progress? You risk everything by resisting change. Tom responded with confidence. Change can be a force for good, but only if it respects our roots. We're offering a vision for a future that embraces who we are and what we stand for. He gestured to the crowd, his voice rising like a tide. Together, we will craft a proposal that honors our past and welcomes growth without sacrificing our community spirit. As he spoke, he caught Selena's bright eyes, filled with admiration, nodding fervently at his side. More voices rose around him, stories spilling into the air like blessings, recounting laughter and pains tied to the town. Hall's facade crumbled in the face of such raw emotion. His polished arguments turned dull against the joy of real connection. "All right," Hall finally shouted, though his voice quaked. "Let's see what your precious community can bring to the table." Tom turned. "Our stories are our strength, and we won't let anyone take that away from us. We'll show Hall the power of unity." As they rallied, an electrifying sense of hope ignited among neighbors. They had redefined what progress could mean. In that moment, the struggle transformed from fear to sheer determination, and Tom now stood tall, ready for whatever challenges awaited. This was their moment. They weren't just fighting for a piece of land. They were fighting for each other, for the family built on shared experiences, laughter, and love. When the curtain fell on this chapter, they would emerge stronger than ever. That's when Tom knew. Together, they could face anything. From this day forward, their past, present, and future would remain intertwined, forever warmed by the bonds they forged through their unyielding spirit. And the shadows of despair would be nothing compared to the glow of their unity. As they stepped forward together, an unbreakable force gathering against the cold, Tom felt every doubt slip away, replaced by an incandescent sense of possibility. In unity, they had found strength. In love, they had discovered purpose. Together, they would win. Now is the moment! You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Don't wait, not even one more second, to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. And leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Let's get this inspiring message out there. Tell us in the comments how you feel about this heartwarming story. Your reaction matters. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. This was their moment.